Welcome back to the Christian Hadith channel. Today we will discuss Hamzah Tzortzis talking about the very satanic and barbaric punishment of death for apostasy. Predictably, Hamzah Tzortzis says he wants to defend the satanic punishment of death for apostasy. On the screen here, you will see a screenshot of Hamzah's YouTube discussion with the link in the picture. If you have an hour of time to waste, you can listen to him talking in the video. The first thing to be noted is that in over 1 hour of discussion, Hamzah Tzortzis does not quote a single verse from the Quran to back up what he is saying. Hamzah claims to be an Islamic scholar, yet he cannot quote even one single verse from the Quran to back up what he is saying. This is evidence enough that Hamzah has no faith in the Quran. He has obviously rejected the Quran. How can you call yourself an Islamic scholar when you cannot quote even one verse from the Quran to support what you are saying? The other most obvious reason is that Hamzah Tzortzis simply does not know which verse to quote from the Quran to support his rather satanic suggestion that apostates must be killed. We will not waste time reproducing anything of what Hamzah has said. But here is what the Quran really says about apostasy. In the Quran, there is absolutely no punishment of any sort for apostasy. Instead, the Quran has many verses which say exactly the opposite, that there is no punishment for apostasy. There cannot be any such thing as a punishment for apostasy. The satanic punishment of death for apostasy, which Hamzah has failed to defend, has been plagiarized from the Jewish and Christian Bibles. Here is the biblical reference to the punishment of death for apostasy. It's in Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 5, which says, "But that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he has spoken in order to turn you away from the Lord your God." Because he has spoken in order to turn you away from the Lord your God. That is apostasy in the Bible, which must be punished with death. In the next slide here, you will see the hadith which prescribes the same satanic punishment of death for apostasy. In Al-Bukhari, hadith number 6922 narrates that Ibn Abbas said, "The Messenger of Allah said, whoever changes his religion, put him to death." Most obviously, the hadith has plagiarized death for apostasy from the Bible. What did the messenger really teach us in the Quran? Here is Surah number 4 or chapter number 4, verse 137, which sounds as follows. Inna allazina amanu thumma kafaru thumma amanu thumma kafaru thumma azdadu kufran lam yakunillahu liyaghfira lahum wala liyahdiyahum sabilan, which means, in the English translation, those who believe and then they disbelieve and then they believe again and then they disbelieve and continue in their disbelief, Allah will not forgive them or show them the right way. As you can see, there is absolutely no mention of any kind of punishment for a person who moves in and out of belief multiple times. Very clearly then, there is no punishment of any sort in the Quran for apostasy or the act of rejecting belief. Now here are a few other verses from the Quran which say very clearly that the job of the messenger or the Rasul is only to deliver the message. It is not the job of a messenger to be a guardian or an enforcer of religious belief. Here is chapter 10, verse 99 from the Quran, which says that you cannot force people to believe. In Arabic, it sounds like this. وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَآمَنَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كُلُّهُمْ جَمِيعًا أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسَ حَتَّى تَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ, which means, and if your Lord so wished, surely He could have made all mankind believe. Are you going to force all the people into belief? Meaning, you cannot force people to believe. If Allah wanted everyone to be a believer, He could have made all human beings on the earth believers, but He did not. So why do you wish to force the people into belief? That is not your job. Next up is Surah 13, verse 40, the last portion of which it says, فَإِنَّمَا عَلَيْكَ الْبَلَاغُ وَعَلَيْنَا الْحِسَابُ, which means, surely upon you is to convey the message. Alayka al-balaghu means upon you is the conveyance of the message. Wa alayna hisabu, and it is upon us to judge. The reckoning is upon us. So it is the function or the responsibility of the messenger to convey the message, and it is the job of Allah to do the reckoning or the judgment over the people. But what Hamzah Tzortzis is implying is the other way around. He is saying, Alayna al-balagu wa alayna hisabu, which means it is upon us to convey the message, and it is also upon us to pass judgment on the people. This is what punishment for apostasy is. You are passing judgment upon the people. When the Quran clearly says in chapter 13, verse 40, Wa alayna hisabu, it is upon us, upon Allah, to pass judgment on people. It is not upon Hamzah Tzortzis. The same message is repeated in Surah 28, verse 56 of the Quran, which says, Innaka la tahdi man ahbabta, which means surely you cannot guide those whom you love. Walakin Allah yahdi man yasha. But it is only Allah who will guide whoever He wills. وَهُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِالْمُهْتَدِينَ. And surely He knows much better who is guided. So again, it is not the duty of the messenger to insist on guidance even for those whom he loves. La tahdi man ahbabta, which means you cannot guide even those whom you love. That is the job that belongs to Allah. It is not the job of the messenger to insist on delivering guidance to people. But this is what Hamzah Tzortzis is saying. If you don't believe as I tell you to believe, I can pass a judgment of death upon you. This is what the messenger taught us in the Quran. It is substantially and completely different from what Hamzah Tzortzis is saying by not referring to the Quran. Hamzah Tzortzis never refers to the Quran. He quotes hadith which is plagiarized from the Bible. Instead, the Quran, this is the Quran al-Hakim, or the Quran that is full of wisdom. The Quran does not have satanic teachings like killing human beings over their beliefs. Those are satanic biblical teachings which have been plagiarized into the hadith from the Bible, which Hamzah Tzortzis and his friends are repeating and parroting without thinking. There is a huge penalty to be suffered if Muslims or the believers, mu'mins, decide to follow the Bible and the fake hadith instead of following the Quran. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah 2, verse 120, it says, وَلَن تَرْضَ عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ وَلَا النَّصَارَى حَتَّى تتبع ملتهم قل إن هدى الله هو الهدى ولا إن اتبعت أهواءهم بعد الذي جاءك من العلم ما لك من الله من ولي ولا نصير, which means the Jews and the Nasara and the Christians, they will not be happy with you until you follow their religion. حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُمْ قُلْ إِنَّ هُدَى اللَّهِ هُوَ الْهُدَى. Say, the true guidance is Allah's guidance. And if you were to obey their whims and fancies, after what has come to you of the knowledge from Allah, then there is no helper, no protector for you against Allah. Sadly, Hamzah Tzortzis does not seem to know any of these verses that I have just read. This will be like Greek to him, although Hamzah Tzortzis is a Greek, but he would have never seen these verses in the Quran before. Or if he has seen them, he has been blind to what they mean. Instead, Hamzah Tzortzis simply parrots biblical passages plagiarized into the hadith, and he passes it off as Islamic teachings or the teachings of the messenger, when actually what they are false teachings plagiarized from the Bible. And in this case of wanting to kill human beings over their belief, it is indeed satanic teachings that Hamzah Tzortzis has imbibed. Thank you.